Erev Shabbat Shalom Rabotai. We are continuing with our Mishna Yomi Masechet Terumot. We're up to Perek Yud Mishnah Tet. Today's Mishnah should be Le'en Nishmat Neriab Mitzvetlana Aranbayev and Eliyahu Ben Burchai Israelov Minuchatam Began Eden Amen. Today's Mishnah is going to continue to discuss the halachot of permissible food pickled with prohibited food, specifically applying it to kosher and non-kosher grasshoppers. Just as an introduction, the Torah permits eating certain types of grasshoppers. The Torah speaks about it in Sefer Vayikra, chapter 11, Psukim 21 and 22, and the Mishnayot in Masechet Chulin, chapter 3, Mishnah 7. Nowadays, however, the custom is almost practically in all communities to prohibit eating any type of grasshoppers. The Mishnah says, Chagavim tmeim shenichbeshu im chagavim teorim. If non-kosher grasshoppers were pickled with kosher grasshoppers, and just like in the previous Mishnah, what does it mean? The grasshoppers were soaked in salt or vinegar, and this draws out the body fluids of the grasshoppers. The Mishnah says, Lo faslu et siram. The non-kosher grasshoppers do not prohibit the brine, meaning the brine may be eaten even though some of it came from non-kosher grasshoppers. And the Rav writes the reason for this is because the brine of a non-kosher grasshopper is not viewed as a part of the grasshopper itself, but as a separate entity. And the Mefarshim explain the fluid that comes out of grasshoppers when they're pickled is not classified as blood, and it's considered mere moisture. What the Rav writes, it's mere moisture. In fact, Mefarshim explain this fluid is considered so much a separate entity that it is nullified in any amount of kosher brine, which is in contrast to yesterday's Mishnah, the brine of non-kosher fish, which is prohibited as long as there isn't a significant amount of kosher brine to nullify it. And therefore, the rabbis permitted such brine when it is mixed with kosher brine. Now, the Mishnah said, the Mishnah is going to continue, even though this opinion that we just read, the Tana Kama, even though he holds a mixture of brine of kosher and non-kosher grasshoppers is permitted, he nevertheless holds that the rabbis do not allow you to eat brine of a non-kosher grasshopper on its own. But the next Tana is more lenient. The Mishnah says, He'id Rabbi Tzadok. Rabbi Tzadok testified that he received a teaching from his teachers. Al tzir chagavim tmeim shu ta'or. Concerning brine of non-kosher grasshoppers, that it is entirely permitted, meaning even if it's not mixed with kosher brine, for sure if it's mixed with kosher brine, the kosher brine is allowed, but not even that. Rabbi Tzadok says, even if it's non-kosher brine on its own, brine of non-kosher grasshoppers is still allowed. So according to him, the brine is not prohibited at all, and the Rav says, V'alacha ke'eduto shel Rabbi Tzadok, the halacha follows the testimony of Rabbi Tzadok. That is in Rabotai Mishnah Tet. Mishnah Yud now returns to the halachot of chulin that was pickled with terumah. The Mishnah says, Kol hanichbashim ze im ze mutarim. All types of chulin vegetables and terumah vegetables that were pickled together, the halacha is that the chulin vegetables are permitted to a non-kohen. And the Farshim explain that when we say chulin vegetables and terumah vegetables were pickled together, they were pickled together in salt water or another sharp liquid. But in certain cases, like the Mishnah is going to explain, the pickling process will cause the terumah vegetable to transfer flavor to the chulin vegetable. But here specifically, they were pickled together in salt water or another sharp liquid. So the Mishnah says the chulin vegetables are permitted to a non-kohen, ela im hechasit, except for those pickled with a sharp vegetable like an onion or garlic. And the reason for this is because pickling does not usually cause a transfer of flavor of a terumah vegetable. However, a sharp vegetable can transfer its flavor through pickling. And the Mefarshim explain, if any two vegetables are cooked together, they transfer flavor from one to the other. Pickling, however, does not transfer flavor as effectively as cooking. So therefore, with regard to pickling, only a chasit vegetable, which we said was an onion or a garlic, which has a very strong, sharp flavor, that can transfer its flavor. Now, the Mefarshim point out that the Mishnah is specifically referring to vegetables of terumah, but with regards to other halachot and prohibitions, pickling any type of vegetable may be enough to transfer flavor. The Mefarshim also point out olives are considered a sharp vegetable, and that's why they transfer flavor through pickling, like we learned in Mishnah 7. Therefore, the Mishnah says, Chasit shel chulin im chasit shel terumah, a sharp vegetable of chulin that was pickled together with a sharp vegetable of terumah, yarak shel chulin im chasit shel terumah, or a vegetable of chulin which is not sharp, that was pickled with a sharp vegetable of terumah, asur. It is forbidden to a non-kohen, meaning the terumah vegetable which is sharp transfer its flavor to the chulin vegetable, and this is true whether the chulin vegetable is sharp or not. Aval, however, chasit shel chulin im yarak shel terumah mutar. A sharp vegetable of chulin, and certainly a vegetable of chulin that's not sharp, that was pickled with a vegetable of terumah that is not sharp, is permitted. Why? Because a terumah vegetable which is not sharp doesn't release any flavor, and therefore, even if the chulin vegetable is sharp, there's no transfer of flavor. So just as a conclusion, we're always going to go by the terumah vegetable. If the terumah vegetable is sharp, then the chulin vegetable will always be asur. If the terumah vegetable is not sharp, so even if the chulin vegetable is sharp, the chulin vegetable will be mutar, because the terumah has to be sharp in order to transfer flavor when pickling it with a terumah, with a chulin vegetable. That is in Rabotai, today's Mishna Yomi. Baruch Adonai leolam, amen v'amen.